Yes, but right now we are live on ITV in the studio, but also live on Facebook right now. You may have spotted that I'm missing a certain someone who's usually here until his 6:30 shift ends, but don't worry, he's not doing a half shift. If I head over here, actually, you can see exactly what he is doing. Well, he's on a bike, if you can't make it out. Hello, Jonathan. What are you doing out there on this rather chilly evening?
It's a question I'm asking myself at this very moment in time, Rebecca. I'm actually on my way to get a haircut. I'll explain that bit in a moment, but actually we're launching a new men's health series looking at a whole variety of different things concerning men, from diet to diabetes and drink as well, and a whole load of other things as well.
So you are on your bike, so to speak, but you're not actually kicking off the series looking at the benefits of physical exercise, are you?
Actually, not on this one. No, that's for another time. We're looking at mental health today. And as the figures, hopefully you can see this on your screen coming up now, will testify they are particularly bad. 1 in 8 men this week will have a mental health issue. Anxiety and depression, they are the most common forms of that. So it's more important than ever, really, that we are talking about it, spotting those people who are in trouble as well, and offering advice where we can. And I'm off to one particular shop, barbers to be precise, where they're doing a campaign which is absolutely fantastic, and it is precisely that. It's whereby the people are coming in and they're chatting to them. So we're going to get a bit more about that. We're going to chat about it more about it right now, because here I am at Cropper's Barbers. Now, bear with as I do the rather undignified thing of trying to hop off a bike here, unclip one microphone, give that one there, pick this one up here.
Hopefully we will rejoin him shortly, but until we do, here are a few more details on the Menkind project. The aim of the campaign is to tackle some of the issues facing men, such as mental illness, alcoholism and obesity, head on, with advice and support through the Menkind campaign. Now, once a month, we will take a topic, discuss it with experts and offer plenty of advice. Joining us on the journey will be Darren Eadie, known to football fans as a pacey midfielder. What many might not know is that Darren has faced his own mental and physical battles, and we can hopefully join Jonathan now to find out a little bit more about that. Jonathan.
We are back here, and it gave me actually a chance to get off my wonderful, fashionable paraphernalia and so come into here to Croppers. Let's find out a little bit more about this scheme that we're talking about. Here we are. It's a hive of activity this evening. Let me introduce you to a couple of the important people. We've got Nick Little here, who set up the whole scheme, and Steve as well. He's cutting the man in front of us, Darren Eadie. We're going to speak to Darren in a moment as well. Nick, first of all, just tell us a little bit more about the project.
Well, the Child Plan campaign was created by myself and my colleague Oz Osborne about 4 years ago, and it's very simply it's a campaign to get men talking more openly, more often about mental health.
Yeah, and it came to the barbers. How did that actually come about then, Steve?
Well, Nick and I have known each other for a long time, and we quickly realised that the barber shop is a place which is generally a hive of activity. Generally, it's a nice, positive place to be, but we quickly recognised that with the proximity to our clients, it's a place that a client might be able to talk candidly about their issues or anything that's going on in their lives.
Yeah. Well, Darren, listening to that, I mean, it's a fantastic project, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think it's almost incredible it hasn't been done before. I know, speaking to my wife and lots of ladies that go to the hairdressers, they're constantly talking about things and kind of almost, telling their stories, whereas men have not tended to do that. But it's the ideal place to do it, having a conversation. It's about noticing when those issues are just arising, perhaps at the start of things, and these guys now being able to signpost them in the right direction to get the help they need.
So, Steve, just come in and tell us a little bit about it. If someone came into to get a haircut today, like Darren, you recognise there's a bit of an issue, what would you do?
Well, obviously we take every client as on their merit. Not everyone is going to deal with it in the same way, but we like to think that we have a nice enough relationship with our clients that we might be able to notice that something would be sort of amiss with them. So we have the website, the 12th Man website, which we could refer them to, or we can just basically open a line of dialogue with them, which would hopefully make them feel comfortable to talk about their mental well-being.
Nick, come back in at this stage as well, because this is something which we're talking about as far as barbers are concerned, but this could be rolled out over the whole of the country and in a whole variety of different industries.
Yeah, absolutely. The campaign is not specific to barbers. Obviously, we use the analogy of the football crowd. Very positive things happen in the football crowd, particularly among men. They show emotion, they get unconditional support for their team. So we're looking at taking those values and putting them into all areas of society, really. We look to work with lots of trades, not just barbers, tattoo shops, social clubs. We're looking at working with men's interest groups as well.
Fantastic. We're going to speak to Nick and Steve and Darren and more about that as well on our Facebook Live that we're going to do a little bit later on, just after the programme. We're also going to speak to Dr. Louis Smith, who's... Good evening, Louis. Firstly, welcome to the Barbers. An unusual place for you, no doubt. But first of all, just in terms of what we're talking about here, people will be watching this saying, why just men?
It's not just men when we're talking about mental health, but Norfolk County Council wanted to sponsor the 12th Man to do this work, targeting men, because sadly 3 times as many men take their own lives in a year as women do. What we know is women are much more likely to go to the GP, they're more likely to ask for help, talk to friends, seek help. Men don't do that. So this is all about where do you find places that men feel comfortable, where we can get them to talk.
The good thing is that men seem to be talking more, but there's more opening up to be done.
There is, and there's lots of different ways that we can do that. We've seen the 12th Man project today. We're trying to do work with people in the construction industry. Another thing we're wanting to talk about today is something called the Staying Alive app. If you go onto Google or Apple, you can download an app. It'll take you through some things, provide you with some help and support if you're not ready to talk to people.
Dr. Louis Smith, thank you very much for now. Final word, Darren. It's great to have you on board for this campaign. We're kicking off with mental health tonight. What are your thoughts on what you'd like to see happen over the next 9 months?
Well, where do you start? I mean, there's still an awful lot to do, but the awareness has certainly grown. I think it's for these guys as well, realising that you haven't got to be a professional to be able to give that advice. It's just listening to someone with an ear, listening to what they've got to say and signposting them in the right direction. And you can go onto the norfolk.gov.uk/Menkind, on the website to find out about the information there. And it's just a fabulous campaign of that awareness, again, that we all want to draw towards this, obviously, problems having at the moment.
Darren, we'll have to leave it there. As I say, join us on our Facebook Live immediately after the programme. I know there have been a few issues with Facebook Live, but there are a few issues out here as well. We're going to solve them all, so do join us later on.
Well, it is time for us to say goodbye, but if you have access to Facebook, then head to our page where Jonathan and his guests, well, they're getting a haircut, but they're also chatting right now on the subject of men's mental health.
Well, welcome to the ITV News Anglia Facebook Live. Earlier we kicked off the Menkind project, and over the next 9 months we're going to look at a whole range of different subjects affecting men's issues. Tonight we kicked off with mental health here at the Croppers Barbers. Lots to talk about. We can expand on what we discussed in the programme. First of all, the man behind the project here initially, Nick Little. Nick, just let's run over the whole thing from the start, shall we? Just tell us about the idea, where it came from and what it's all about.
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago. Myself and my colleague Oz Osborne, who sadly died quite recently, we run a community interest company called The Outsiders, and we were doing some work with the Time to Change campaign, which is a national mental health anti-stigma campaign, looking at how that campaign could engage more men. And we did some work with them, but through that we realised that there was a need to create a campaign for men that's very much at the front end of this subject, and it's purely to get men to talk about their emotions, their well-being, ultimately their mental health more often, more regularly, more openly, and to try and reduce the stigma. Because if men feel unable to talk about how they feel because of how their colleagues, their friends or family might react, then they're not going to talk about it. So we need to get rid of that stigma, basically. We did a lot of research, and we found that overwhelmingly men feel that talking about mental health or having a mental health problem is a sign of weakness. Well, we absolutely need to turn that around. I mean, Darren and other people would testify it takes an incredible amount of strength to talk about your mental health. So we want men to see this as a sign of strength. We're both football fans. Oz was an Ipswich fan. I'm a Norwich City supporter. So we dealt with our issues very well, but both very passionate about football, and through that discussion we identified that in a football crowd men will show emotion. They will support their team unconditionally. If they play badly, next week they'll be back behind them. So we wanted to use those positive values and try and apply them to everyday life.
And a Barbers is a great place, really, frankly, for men to open up.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked a lot through this project. This has been happening all the time in barbers. What I think we've tried to do is just formalise that a little bit and maybe help barbers recognise that they're already performing that role, and maybe just give them a few tips to try and help those conversations.
Well, one of those barbers is Steve Bunn here. I'll just nip over here and have a chat to Steve.
Not when he's cutting.
It's called multi-skilling. It's no problem at all here.
I'll put the scissors down.
Yeah. And has it just been going for over a year now, hasn't it, Steve?
Just over a year.
So how would you say it's gone?
I would say it's gone very, very well. You know, like as Nick mentioned earlier, it's a conversation that has always been there more or less in a barber shop. I think what the mental health first aid training has done for us barbers who are active in the 12th Man campaign has made us less fretful about saying the wrong thing, which is massively important. Obviously, it's not... Mostly it's about helping the individual, you know, just to open the line of dialogue and to make them feel more comfortable about talking about it. But what's a big issue for us as well is a lot of people who are maybe feeling a little bit sensitive about talking about it. For the person they're talking to, there's a lot of you're critiquing yourself because you feel you're afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing and perhaps make the problem worse. So for us who've undergone the training, it's been invaluable, and I would like to think that the people who've been coming in the shop who are aware of what we're doing have been more open with us, you know, since they've been aware of the campaign being active. Yeah,
I'm sure that's the case. Darren, the thing which is coming out loud and clear is the talking bit, isn't it? Go back a few years to when you were perhaps at your lowest point. How hard did you find that?
Well, I mean, these kind of campaigns and initiatives were unthinkable only a few years ago, and it shows now how much awareness that's drawn about and the attention they are getting, and deservedly so. Yeah, I mean, it was a really tough time. You kind of get lost in your own head. You know, you forget about yourself. You know, you're kind of wrapped up in just your thoughts in your head, and it affects the people around you, your friends, your family, and you don't realise it. And sometimes you don't even realise how deep you're getting. So by speaking to someone and kind of opening up starts the process of then finding out exactly what kind of help you need and finding out what actually helps you. And it's different for everybody, so you need to find a way to make sure that you can get the right help that you need in your circumstances. But it's really, really difficult to first open up, but having all these initiatives gives somebody those opportunities in different areas to be able to do that, and it's been brilliant. And the campaign I've been doing with Norfolk County Council and the Menkind campaign, it's been overwhelming, really. It's overwhelming a little bit of actually the effect it's had. You know, with the campaign we had this week about mental health that's been in the EDP, and people contacting me on social media and saying stuff like, this article's come at just the right time. And to me, it's like, wow. You know, somebody who's deep in it at the moment is actually opening up and saying on social media that they need that type of help. And we've had 3 or 4 people do that. And it's just unthinkable to me to think that that's been happening. And just overwhelming to think that they are getting the help they need and opening up. And, you know, we're making a difference. And that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah, certainly are making a difference. We can say that now because we just turn around here. We've got Jack, who's looking after our social media for us this evening. And Jack, again, we talked about the importance of talking, and plenty of people have been talking to you.
Yeah, it's been really encouraging today, actually, Jonathan. We compiled some different articles on the ITV Anglia website this morning, and off the back of that, a lot of people have got in contact. First of all, thank you to everyone who's watching on Facebook. Bernice says, men think it's taboo to talk, but it isn't. Talk to someone. We all want to help. And so many encouraging comments as well. I wanted to share with you a story of Matt Webb, one of our viewers who got in contact with us on email earlier. He'd got into a fairly dark place. He'd been in an abusive relationship. He was then bullied in the workplace. And his, I suppose, moment of goodness came when he went to visit a GP. From the back of that, he was then referred to the Richmond Fellowship. They're a mental health charity in Cambridge. They helped, and that dialogue continued. He was then offered a job there. That really helped him. He can now help people back, and he's got a really good show on Cambridge 105 as well, talking about men's health. I think the theme I've seen today especially is it's just opening that dialogue. Once that begins, it becomes a whole lot easier from there.
Brilliant. Well, keep talking to us on our Facebook page as well. Jack's going to be in charge of that throughout the entire campaign. Dr. Louis Smith, we saw you in the programme, Dr. Smith, as far in your capacity as Director of Public Health for Norfolk County Council. I saw you sort of nodding vigorously at the idea of talking. Just how important has that been, and how important is this campaign for you?
Talking is absolutely what's most important about this. We don't have to have the answers to sit and talk about something. And some of the messages that we want to get out are thinking about suicide, feeling down, feeling low is common. it doesn't mean that you've got a lifelong mental health problem. Lots of people, sadly, who take their own lives are not mentally ill. It's just where you are at the moment, and talking can help you with that. It can help you out of it.
Is progress being made, would you say? 'Cause it certainly seems the figures suggest that perhaps we are beginning to talk more, perhaps we are beginning to open up, these type of campaigns are beginning to work.
We're seeing some really high-profile figures, like the Royal Family support this. Right across society, we are seeing people talk about it more. One of the reasons why it's been important for us in Norfolk County Council is that the numbers taking their own lives, sadly, in Norfolk are high. And until last year, they were much higher than the England average. So we wanted to do this here, locally in Norfolk, because there's more that we need to do here.
But wherever people are watching this evening, it is an issue. Thank you very much for the moment. And in terms of this campaign, Nick, we talked about sort of where this can go again on the programme. And it's interesting, isn't it, that here we are talking about a small number of barbers at the moment, but this is far wider than that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The 12th Man campaign, we want to be as broad as possible. At the moment, we've done some very successful work with barbers. For that, we won the last year, actually, the Mental Health First Aid England 10-year awards. We won the Innovation Award for that. I think it was just because we had a unique approach to it. We did the training here in the barber shops after hours, and we rotated around. There are 3 or 4 others we should mention: Blades, Truman's, you might have to help me, Steve, the Den, yeah. So it's important to say there are other shops involved in this. We want to extend that across Norfolk and eventually nationally, but we also want to work with other trades. Tattoo artists would be a really good one, perhaps door staff, taxi drivers, things like that. Not just professions that men tend to do, but we want to position ourselves where men go. So we've got beer mats, things like that, because whether we like it or not, men go down to the pub and they have conversations there. So it would be great if those conversations about mental health took place in the pub. People didn't feel afraid to have them.
Yeah, brilliant. Let's get some more reaction on social media.
Yeah, Jonathan, the comments continue to flow, which is really encouraging. Philip Gammager's got in touch on Facebook. He said, "Hi, Jonathan, I had a breakdown over 4 years ago after losing my friend. She was only 53 when she passed away. A lot of my friends were concerned, but I got through thanks to talking to them. This is a fantastic idea, thanks to Darren and the team." We also had Wayne Turl. He emailed in earlier. He's been struggling with his mental health since 2011. He, much like our other people, went to see a GP, helped with counselling, and he just said it's all about keeping his mind occupied, doing activities he enjoys, and thanks to that, he's managing to deal with it, which is good to see.
It is brilliant. I keep sharing these stories as well with Jack, as I'm going to tread on the cable here. Steve, we've talked about kind of people talking to you. You actually went on a course to become a mental health first aid. Didn't you? Just tell us about that, if someone wants to go down that approach.
If someone wants to go down that approach, I would say the best thing to do would probably be to visit the 12th Man website, or obviously for us, we're happy for people to contact us here at Croppers if they want us to move their number on forward to the appropriate people. And again, I can't vouch for the training highly enough. If anyone in the local vicinity, or hopefully, like Nick was saying, further afield, is interested in this type of thing, of which I would say most forward-thinking barbers with a semi-conscious would like to do, then yeah, there's those points of contact there. They can contact us here at Croppers, or they can visit the 12th Man website, and we'd be happy to sort of see this idea go as far and wide as possible.
And Darren, as far as kind of going back to the sort of the subject of talking, I mean, I know, but anecdotally, I mean, you obviously speak to a lot of people as well in your day-to-day work. If someone sort of has an issue with you, the way you approach it now, is that different as well than say perhaps you would have done a couple of years back?
I think so. I think you don't always have to suffer from something to kind of understand it. I think it's just being empathetic. I think that's something that certainly resonated with me, is when people are feeling that way, instead of before I might have kind of brushed it off and had a laugh and a joke with them, I kind of listen now and don't have an opinion on it. And that's what it's about. You're not trying to give too much of an opinion, just listen to what they got to say, and then maybe signposting them to the people that are more professional and can get you sorted properly. But it really is, you don't have to be trained. You don't have to be, if you want to get those mental health training that you can do, then fantastic. But if you don't want to do that, it is just being an ear to bend. And I think a lot of the time, we all can do that. Anybody can do that. We do it most of the time in our life. So, if we can just get more people and more men to open up and start that dialogue, it really does change everything. You know, I think we can see from this campaign the effect it's having. There's still lots of work to do, I think, in terms of once you have been signposted, the help you get. I still think there's a lot of improvement to do there, but in terms of opening up and drawing attention to what people do need and men starting that dialogue to get help is miles ahead of where we were only 2 or 3 years ago.
And Dr. Louise Smith, as far as that is concerned, when we're talking about the sort of the speaking aspect of it, what else could we do? We've got to be careful, haven't we? We should sort of give a word of caution that while we want to help and we want to help mates and talking is one thing, we should still have a word of caution, perhaps.
Yes, certainly. Talking helps. We don't need to fix it here and now. So there's that message of you can sit with this, and tomorrow is a fresh day and a new start. There are some other tools and help that we have out there. If we go onto the County Council website, we've put a whole set of information and resources and tools up for people suffering, for family and friends, and also for staff working with people who are struggling with their mental health. We're also promoting something called the Staying Alive website, and again, we'd encourage people to think about downloading that and giving that a go.
Brilliant. Well, let's have one final nip back and see what's happening on social media now as well. What else is happening now, Jack?
Yeah, it's tough to keep up with all of these comments, Jonathan. Charmaine Tuddenham says that she simply thinks this is a fantastic idea. Mary Lou says this is a brilliant idea as well. So the common consensus online is certainly that this is definitely going to help. It's worth noting as well, on our website, itv.com/Anglia, we've uploaded a lot of articles on there today. That will continue over the next 8 months. And I think the important thing is here, let's keep this conversation going. Yeah. Please do get in contact with us on our Twitter, our Facebook page.
You're around every day, aren't you? And
indeed.
People are writing in that you'll be able to respond, and also we'll be able to use those comments and stories later on in the series.
Exactly that. And we haven't been able to cover all of the comments tonight, which shows just how popular this has become, but we certainly will be able to share them stories going forwards.